Welcome to Manhattan Project. We're being casual today and leaning back. This is day 5.
So tonight we went to go see Annabelle Creation at the UA Court Street Regal Cinemas. United Artists, Regal, who knows?
Check it out. Woohoo, here's me about to see Annabelle Creation at the the Regal Court Street, and I definitely didn't already see it and run really late to the movie and forget to vlog, and I'm definitely not in my apartment right now. I'm definitely at the theater about to see it. That's definitely. Annabelle Creation is the prequel to the prequel of the Conjuring franchise, Annabelle, which is, a lot of movies. It's about a demonic doll, except this one is about the creation of that doll. It takes place 12 years after a horrific accident kills a young child, and then the demon of that child, or who we think is that child, may just be coming back to haunt a group of orphans. Let's take a look at the trailer.
In 3 days, bring a friend to tell you what you missed when your eyes were closed.
Please, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real.
Annabelle Creation.
So, Evan, what was your expectation about this film going into it?
My expectations weren't that high. I knew that it had pretty good reviews. I'm a big fan of other films within the Conjuring universe, which is to say The Conjuring. I actually haven't seen Annabelle or even Conjuring 2. I have seen another film by David Sandberg, Lights Out, which I liked. So on the one hand, kind of excited. On the other hand, I didn't really know the mythology, so who knew?
Here's my take. Annabelle Creation is a marathon of terror that showcases some extremely inventive and competent direction alongside some excellent child performances to deliver what is honestly one of the surprise highlights of this entire year, if not the summer. Do you agree or disagree, Evan?
Not only do I agree, I think that you're spot on. I was really glad that you mentioned...
That's what agreeing is. Unless I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I gotta look up the definition.
Not only do I agree, I was actually really happy that you mentioned the child actors' performances in your summary of the film, because it's not just that the film has a lot of good scares in it, it's that those performances do help it get a little bit more of an emotional resonance, which is generally what makes this kind of movie that much more memorable, especially when it's Annabelle 2, a prequel to a prequel of whatever else.
The movie really benefits from David Sandberg, the director, being clearly a student of horror, right? There's tons of influences from, thankfully, James Wan, the director of the original Conjuring movies, which I haven't seen the first Annabelle, but given the fact that people say it sucks, I imagine it loses some of the style that this franchise has that makes it great, which is James Wan's style. And he also mixes in some fucking Sam Raimi in this thing, too. There's a lot of inspiration from, like, good horror directors, and it's executed quite well here, in addition to him having his own style. And having the female child actors be sort of memorable and likable just fits into the fact that I just made a point that has nothing to do with Evan's point, and I'm just trying to bring it around. But yeah, both the direction and the child actors are really good.
So for those of you who've seen Ouija 2, Origin of Evil, there's a lot of interesting connections between that movie and this movie. They both are good sequels to bad original movies, have cool directors, using interpersonal relationships between women to tell a sort of interesting and scary story. One thing I really liked as far as that dynamic goes in Annabelle is the way that it's kind of a two-hander with our protagonists. There's Janice, who's a disabled character, who is the one that's sort of seduced by the dark spirit, and then her best friend, who wants to back her up and sort of save the day. And like John pointed out at one point, it's almost like all of these characters are the final girls.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a lot of strong, empowering female roles in this film. The kids are, thank God, in contrast to a movie Evan and I just saw the other day that you guys will get a review of later this week, I think. It doesn't do the kids are cute and that's why you're supposed to like them, or that's supposed to add value to this film. There's no cheap liking of the kids. The kids have conversations, they feel authentic like real kids. Yes, they're mostly adorable, but that really has nothing to do with it. You just kind of sympathize with them because they seem like decent people. It helps that they're orphans. Everyone knows that orphans are lovable, like Annie. But aside from that, you just care about the characters just like right from the jump. And I think that also helps elevate this movie in that the scenes that aren't the scares because this movie's filled with scares. I said it was a marathon of terror. It's crazy how many set pieces there are in this film. But all the scenes in between the scares, particularly in the first act, are really watchable and breezy and, paced well and well directed, like I said. And that's the other thing that, again, really elevated this movie for me, because you see a lot of movies in this genre where either the scares get you or they don't, either they're clever or they're cliche, whatever. But aside from that, you have to kind of deal with sort of rote, boring, shitty character development and plotting, which is one of the flaws of this guy's first feature, actually, Lights Out. The first half of it is kind of typical horror movies. The ending is very atypical and the emotional payoff is phenomenal. This movie, you don't have to wait for any payoff. It just starts. It's got a great, really disturbing and haunting prologue, and that has nothing to do with demonic stuff. It's just reality. And then from then on, like I said, you just like the characters and you roll with it. It makes it, again, particularly effective in the third act, when suddenly all these set pieces get a payoff that were introduced in the first half, and you're actually paying attention in the first half because you like the characters. Like, there's a great scene with one of those mobile seats that brings handicapped and old folks upstairs if they can't walk and down up the stairs. And as soon as that comes on screen, it's telegraphed, because you're thinking, all right, this is obviously going to be part of a big scare later in the movie. And you're right, but the scene that introduces it in the first act also functions well on its own as a way to showcase the dynamics between the rest of the children and this disabled child, and how she feels sort of embarrassed about being the odd one out and whatnot. Again, the movie just fires on all cylinders from front to start. You don't have to wait for it to get good. It just is.
And John brings up a good point about payoffs, which this movie has a lot of. There's a lot of setup and a lot of payoff. And I think that some of that comes from the freedom of a movie like this, which is a prequel, to then basically just do whatever it wants. Because you already know the important stuff. There's a doll named Annabelle, and it wants to kill people. So as long as they adhere to that, they can basically do whatever they want. So they really develop this location of this creepy, farmhouse, and come up with all these ideas, it's going to have one of those mobile units on the stairs, which fits the plot, and they can build it in organically. It's got stuff like a dumbwaiter. There's all kinds of little things in the house that get to come back around later. And that's because there's no slavish mythology to follow. As long as they do a little bit, they can do whatever they want.
And all those things that you brought up also just stay really true to the Conjuring franchise, more so even than the Conjuring 2, in my opinion. I thought the Conjuring 2 was a little bloated and overrated, even though I love James Wan. But it's stuff like that dumbwaiter, that was called, right? The elevator thing. It's stuff like that just, it feels so authentically Conjuring, which might be silly to say because I'm really just basing that off of the first Conjuring movie. But it's true, that was the value of that movie, is you have a spooky house that has tons of different elements in it that feel like they are there authentically, because you really buy into this old, early 1900s set, time zone. I guess the Conjuring actually takes place in the 50s though, right?
Conjuring the 70s, and this is the 60s.
Either way, shit is all fun, and this movie feels like it fits into the Conjuring franchise even more than it fits into the Annabelle franchise, if that makes any sense. Again, this is someone saying that who hasn't even seen the first Annabelle but just knows it's supposed to be shitty, so I guess I do have to watch it. I definitely am more interested in watching it now.
One nice thing about this movie, as opposed to The Conjuring and a lot of other movies in this genre, is it doesn't really spend much time doing any kind of exorcism rituals, whether it be science-based, paranormal investigator-based, religious-based, whatever. It's more of just what regular people do. I mean, yes, there's a nun that lives with them. It's a religious orphanage, but it's not really about religion in any overt way. There's religious themes to it, but it's not we're going to power of Christ compel you or anything like that. And I thought that was refreshing, because that's a very predictable part of these movies that we didn't have to see.
Especially since it's great that the nun is already in over her head before any demonic stuff happens, because it's very difficult to take care of a bunch of orphan young children alone. And yeah, again, this shit, it just, if you can't tell, I really dug this film. I think it works on all levels. I think that everything it sets up, it knows what it's doing, and there's no real fat to cut. So yeah, a worthy choice. If we're going to end this review, I'll say see the hell out of the Annabelle 2 if you can deal with scares. If you're a horror person, even in the slightest, likes the occasional scare, it's worth your time and money. This movie should be praised. This director should be given as much work as he can handle, because I can't wait to see what he does next. Also, I love that they had that tracking shot that's in the original Conjuring when they first enter the house, and the Steadicam goes all over, and so you get to see the geography of the house and figure out where each room connects to what. Loved it. Evan, your take?
One interesting thing about doing this channel is we're seeing a lot of movies and it's interesting to compare the way I feel when I watch all of them. And the best part of Annabelle 2 is just that, like, I was into the movie. I really did kind of lose myself for a bit and not think about anything else, not think about other movies I'd seen earlier in the week or that day, just watching the movie, and that is a gift in and of itself. So I agree with John. It's a great movie. If you like horror movies, you're going to love it. And my metaphor is...
Annabelle 2 is like watching a good movie.
Annabelle 2 is like the brown sugar lemonade at the Alamo Draft House on a hot summer's day.
That sounds like a 4 out of 4 to me.
Alright, I may have gone too strong on that metaphor. It's like a 3 out of
3.5, 3.
And like on like a March day where like I could have a cool drink right now. So it's like a 3 out of 4.
You're not that thirsty, but like it still tastes good.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you guys so much for watching. We review movies every single day for the Manhattan Project, which means we'll be back tomorrow with another review, and then the next day.
And then the next day, and then the next day, and then the